So we all are in agreement. These jar women have caused far too much damage to men, women, and errant dust bunnies in their startled fright. We can no longer allow them to be within our city or lives.
But the assassins!
A moment of silence for all those dust bunnies.
Thank you, random nameless citizen. Now, on to other pressing matters. In terms of... You there, in the back. Why did you drop your box?
He walked within 3 feet of me.
3 feet of you?! It's about time we went back and looked at some games that I discovered the first of, but that spawned a series. So first we're going to look at Assassin's Creed 2. Now I was pretty open with my unpopular opinion that Assassin's Creed 1 is not very good. Constantly being forced into fights with horrible fighting controls. Overall, the controls are just janky with rough AI, rough situations, boring and repetitive, and really no unifying story and obnoxious open-ended real-world story. But the first game wasn't as much about what it was. It was about what it began. So how was Assassin's Creed 2? In the real world, you remain Desmond Miles. The game starts with you being accosted by Lucy, the Animus tech from the first game. She pushes you into the machine and lets you sync up with a new ancestor, Ezio Auditore, a smug, arrogant young man in Renaissance Italy. Right away, I love the time change and its ramifications on the game. The Renaissance brought us some of the most amazing buildings ever constructed. Sure, Altair had an interesting structure he could climb every now and then, but every high point to view the area was almost identical. Here you might climb an impressive tower you've climbed before, or you might actually be climbing a cathedral, or anything else fascinating. Also, running anywhere as Altair was instantly suspicious. Apparently no one was ever in a hurry during his day. But here in the Renaissance, everyone is running around like a crazy person. As long as you aren't running around up on roofs with the guards, and don't kill anyone in front of a guard, and don't go anywhere near a man carrying a crate, you can run wherever you please without starting an impromptu guard conga line. Guards also notice your crimes if they are present, instead of knowing you've killed a minstrel from 3 streets over. As soon as you've gotten settled into the world, Lucy pulls you back out and you have to run through corridors out of the Abstergo facility. I find it annoying that while they were throwing up button prompts for everything else under the sun, even the things they were going to force me to sit through a proper tutorial for again later, it would be quite a while after this section that I would be finally given the button prompt for running. Once I'd leisurely strolled out of my captivity, I met 2 more assassins. A tech head and an arrogant asshole who I think I was meant to dislike, but who was honestly right most of the time and was just saying stuff the other characters didn't want to hear. They've built their own Animus, and they're going to train us to be an assassin through immersion. We'll spend time learning to be an assassin with Ezio, and that will somehow make us able to do all the stuff in the real world. This is a pretty big plot hole. Yeah, we never saw Altair learn his skills, but we use them constantly. Isn't that the same thing? Also, Ezio learns skills Altair never had. Does that mean those skills were never developed in the earlier days? I guess I could buy that, but that suggests Altair never thought to use his unholy grip strength to catch himself after jumping up from a purchase. Then again, Ezio never thought of doing it either until a random girl suggested it. He also never thought of blending in with other people to help disguise himself until a random woman suggested it. I'm starting to think either Ezio is very stupid, or likes to act very stupid to get ladies to teach him things. Once you're back in Italy, you'll almost never be pulled back out to wander around your real-world companions unless you want to be. Each time you are brought to the surface, there's something important going on that actually progresses the story. This is much better than being constantly pulled out of the story in the original game to wander a few empty rooms before you went back in. Instead of a few scattered things you could eventually do from the first, the Animus itself is scattered with hidden secrets and information. These glyphs were created by the assassin that was captured and died before we played the game, simply known as Subject 16. Apparently spending too long in the Animus can cause a bleed effect where you go into other times and other ancestors without having to be in the machine. Subject 16 was in there so long he could no longer actually remember what timeline he was supposed to be in or who his original personality and name was. He has uncovered many lies and secrets across time and will relay them to you through the glyphs. Some are amazing. Their puzzles are fun and actually play out like a really, really good ARG. Some of the best symbolism and situations will almost make you question your own real-life reality. But as the game went on, they clearly either got lazy or desperate with these puzzles. They got worse and worse and worse until I was only solving them to be able to finish the video that you unlock clips of after each solution. I'm not going to go over each beat of the story here because a lot of it would sound repetitive. There's several points in the story where something unique and interesting, such as sudden carnival games, as absolutely unfair as the Capture the Flag game is, or flying over a city with wings made by Leonardo da Vinci. Wait, that part was awful too. Okay, maybe just stick to the main story for the interesting, fun stuff, but that main story sounds repetitive if I describe it. Almost each section can be broken down to find out who to kill next, work your way to him through a challenge, assassinate them, run away, future target worries and implements new security measure as an increased challenge, repeat. What keeps the game interesting is the way that each of those advancements and problems arise. The way the world around you shifts and changes architecture, and the best way to move through the city as you move from location to location shifts with it. Sure, some stuff hasn't improved. The side missions that scatter the streets for extra pickpocketing, fights, beat-em-ups, they have no bearing on the plot, the world, situation, nothing. They'll just give you extra money. Said money can either buy you better weapons, armor, or be invested back into your home base. Investing it into your home base makes it prettier, offers you better armor and weapons, and gives you more money. The money is made slightly more worthless than it already was by the lack of need for weapon and armor upgrades. Instead of upgrading as you go, you can just stick with the basic armor and weapons and play the game the way it was meant to be. Stealth. A stealth kill is always instant death. Throwing knives will kill in 2 throws at most if you haven't been noticed yet. A poison dagger kills in 1 basic hit, the gun always kills in 1 hit from pretty much any range, and bullets are cheap. You just need to, again, be stealthed when you take the shot. Instead of buying upgrades, focus on the best part of the game. Throughout the game are scattered 6 assassin tombs. Each of these is an actual platforming puzzle, with some of the most creative set pieces I could have ever imagined. The first few are stunning, and you cannot wait to see the next. Just seeing that little assassin logo pop up on the minimap after you synchronize with a vision point will get your heart pumping faster. The last 2, however, were a huge letdown. It feels like they used all their creative ideas on the first 4 and only included 6 because corporate said they needed statues in your basement to set up future games. 4 would have perfectly allowed for 1 in each city instead of the 2 bigger cities to have 2 each. I'd be thrilled about more, but you can't let the effort turn into this and expect me to be happy about it. But if you persevere through the disappointment of the last 2 and your heart doesn't seize up with unbridled joy on the first 4, you can unlock the black assassin armor that we definitely saw Altair wear at some point. No, actually, when did he wear those? I think you're putting me on, Uncle Mario. Let me look this up. Hey, AI Overlord. What did Altair wear?
Altair is a fictional character. He wears a pure white costume, often seen in hilarious parkour fail videos. The pieces of Eden are all fake as well and definitely haven't been used by the Templars to the present day to keep society in check, Otter.
Yeah, that's about... Wait, did you just address me? Repeat that last bit.
To the present day to keep society in check either.
Oh, yeah, either. I misheard.
You're too paranoid, Otter.
Yeah, probably. Alright, apparently the story is that after Altair took the apple from the Seizure McGee in the first game, he took over the assassins and used the incredible knowledge granted by the apple to discover a new blend of metals we still don't have today that made this armor completely unbreakable. He then destroyed the plans for the armor and the metal, afraid they would one day fall in the wrong hands of someone who would replicate the armor, be it friend or foe, and it would be dangerous to the world. Somehow after he died, this armor ended up being locked underneath Italy. Despite Altair living in Musayaf, Syria, which is not only a different country, is not only over 3,000 miles away, is not only nowadays considered a different continent and is a different time zone, but is a different religion than the religion commonly practiced in Italy for both time periods in question, and which were fairly violent towards each other. All of that off screen. Whatever, it looks cool and means I never have to spend money on armor or repairing my weapons again. Seriously, money's meaningless. You know what else is meaningless? Feathers. At the start of the game, your little brother asks you to collect them for him. Well, he kinda, yeah. So we keep collecting them in his memory, except there's 100 scattered all over the game, all in unknown spots, all not marked. You might assume this is the collectible hunt. It's clearly here, for the most dedicated fans that have immersed themselves in the world the deepest. How can we reward those fans? Well, if you collect all 100, then not only does your mother start interacting with the world again, but you receive the Otter Cloak. This cloak is the representation of your family line of which you are the last, and in Renaissance Italy, family was everything.
My name is Pablo Diego Jose Francisco de Paula Nepomuceno Maria de los Remedios Cipriano de la Santissima Trinidad Ruiz y Picasso. Back to Joe, Bob.
And that's why this cloak makes every guard in the game attack you instantly on sight. Because you're family. Yeah, unless you wanted more of the stale combat, never put this cloak on. What a great reward! The last collectible was codex pages that were scattered all over the map and that you retrieve from Templars you assassinate. They speak of a prophecy and would put together clearly display a map. I was really excited and hunted the game world relentlessly for these pages. It was a lot of fun. Up until I realized it was forced progression. I reached the end of the game and had accidentally missed one page. Turns out, the game outright blocks you from progressing to the end of the game until you have collected every single codex page. So if you weren't interested in the hunt like I was, you can either go back and slowly wander through each city doing nothing to retrieve the pages you missed, or you can just forget about ever completing the game. The map's kinda cool, but it's just a map of the world with markers on it that you never discover the meaning of within this game. Would have made a much better side quest for the vague reward. Not something you had to do to finish, but something that would have rewarded those who were invested enough. Similar to the email chains in the first game. Then again, that assumes the end of the game is worth getting to. You remember how I was praising this game, praising the fact that you didn't have to get into these awful fights, that it was actually designed better, that the AI worked, that it wasn't locking you into a place and just saying, here, use these horrible fighting controls to just fight a big group of people and you can move on when you're done. I need to go have a word with the developers. Alright! Which one of you failures decided to hire back one of the first level designers so you could go home early? Yeah, it's all the worst elements from the first game back. Forced to use the janky horse? Check. Areas that kill you automatically if you're good enough to actually get to them because that's not how the developers intended for you to do it? Check. Guards that never lose sight of you no matter what because apparently they were drinking their carrot juice inside an x-ray machine this morning? Check. Forced fights with a bunch of guards you can't get out of because fights? Check. A fist fight with the Pope. Check what? This game includes a fist fight with the Pope after we've ostensibly killed him for the third time. How did you mess that up? Seriously, if you had presented this to me as this game is gonna end with a climactic slobber knocker between you and Pope Alexander VI, one of the most controversial popes of all time to exist, you couldn't have kept me away from this game. I would have been running towards that ending like I was on a beach in a romance movie in slow motion. somehow, you managed to turn it into the most boring, lifeless, stagnant gameplay I've experienced in quite some time. Okay, focus, Otter. Be constructive. List your concerns. Alright, we start out by killing Rodrigo Borgia. Historically speaking, this was the original name of Pope Alexander VI before he ascended to the papacy. We fight him in a forced combat sequence in which we cannot use counters. That's because counters are an instant kill, and we've run into the issue with pseudo-history. We know full well that Roger here became Pope, so we can't have killed him, so instead we just hit him a lot with a lethal weapon in his head and back. Definitely not lethal in a time where medicine was. Yeah. Then we jump a few years off screen. No clue what we were supposedly doing during that time, since I only had one page left to collect before the jump, and I have one page to collect after the jump, but Raji is now Alex. We go through the section I was complaining about a bit ago to break into the cathedral and perch above him in the rafters. One quick jump, a knife between the ribs into his heart, the Pope's dead. Except that, historically speaking, we know Pope Alexander VI died of a disease. It is debated whether that was from his son accidentally poisoning him to death, trying to off a cardinal, or if it was just malaria, but we can say for sure that he was not murdered by a hooded Italian man giving him a prison shower hello during the Eucharist. So for some reason he's not dead. I don't know, I guess we missed his heart, and he's a tough fat man. He tries to cow us with the Staff of Eden, and we are immune because we have the apple. He challenges us to a fight, so we clone ourselves? Okay, in the first game, yes, we see the personification of a grand mal seizure make copies of himself, but it was clear that there was only one real version. The others were in our head. These clones can help me stab Alex in the back. Yes, that's how I beat him. You're once again not allowed to counter him because that would be an instant kill, so you have to just stand there and let him hit you. The only real way to get in hits is to pick him up, hit him a few times, throw him back, smack him on the back of the head with his sword while he's down. But I found a better way. Just grab him and let your clones get in a hit. He'll break free as soon as they land the hit, but you can instantly grab him again and just let your clone keep going. If he starts to wiggle around showing he's about to break out before the clone looks like they're going to attack, just headbutt him. He'll go down, letting you knock a few more childhood memories out before he gets up. And as soon as he's back on his feet, repeat. Apparently, he's still not dead after that because his skull has been reinforced with titanium. Okay, not really, but it was stupid enough you believed me for a second, didn't you? Okay, real answer this time. I don't know anymore! He uses the staff again, and this time we're not immune. I don't know anymore! It also makes him invisible. I use my magic stick! Oh yeah? Well, I have an everything-proof shield, and that makes 5 of me, so I'm stronger than you. Yeah? Well, mine's an everything shield-proof resistant magic stick. Well, I'm still stronger. My stick makes me invisible! So, now that the apple doesn't protect us, the Pope steals it and stabs us in the gut. That's just apparently how we say hello here at the ending of things, though. We chase him into a secret underground dungeon. We still have our weapons. He has both pieces of Eden. And then both of us discard everything to engage in the fist fight. Monday, it's the biggest fight of the century. An unknown to history versus the Pope so corrupt his successor sealed his rooms, and they stayed sealed up for 400 years. Don't be there. Seriously, this couldn't be more boring if it tried. It's the Pope getting punched in the jowls over and over again. That's the whole fight. And then we refuse to kill him and walk back over to the Twin Pieces. The secret chamber opens, ready to display the secrets to the Pope who so desperately wanted to know them. And we walk in. He is not dead. He is not incapacitated. There is nothing to prevent the Pope from just following us in, hearing everything. But he's just gone from the plot, literally. When the camera turns back around to show us Ezio, we can see the room he just came from. Staff's still in there, and based on where he was when we left, Pope should be just behind it, his massive bulk clearly visible. The scene has no respect for continuity, though. Check this out. We hand her the apple. Let's rewind for a second. Door opens. Apple's in the staff. We walk past the staff, leave the apple there, go down the hallway, enter the cutscene trigger, and that starts. Now we're in cutscene. Happens in real time. We've never touched the apple. It's still back on the staff, yet, whoop, here it is. That really sums up how the whole ending feels. Like the developers were rushing to reach the ending without caring how they got there. The apple's here now because it needs to be. We don't need to set it up. The Pope isn't there anymore because it'd be inconvenient if he heard. You're in Rome now, fighting against waves of soldiers. We don't need to set it up. It doesn't help that the story devolves into the sequel-baiting gibberish that even only 2 games in, I'm far too used to from this series to take seriously. That said, it still threw me off when she directly addressed Desmond in the quote-unquote IRL world, though. That was pretty cool. Credits roll, but the game isn't over. We have to run from the place we've been hiding. Abstergo found us. One more forced fight against modern guards that somehow don't have a gun despite appearing to wear gun belts. Kill all of them, and the doctor from the first game escapes. Yet more sequel bait, and that's Assassin's Creed 2. There were definitely some rough patches, but this game improved on its predecessor in every way I could have wanted it to. It was a joy to experience the world, and even if the story fell down in some places and the end was meaningless and rough, they also did a good job on building up the intrigue and getting me interested in the next game that comes after and where the story will go without making it so convoluted and so open-ended as to be impossible to even speculate on like the first game did. You've got some hooks, you've got some points for speculation, and I'm extremely excited to see what comes next. I can happily give Assassin's Creed 2 a 9 out of 10. Those puzzles, the feather, the ending, and the plot holes all hold it back from a perfect 10 out of 10, but the time with Ezio was still a joy. And I can only hope that the next game is even nearly as good as this one was.